I'd like to know your point of view. Let me ask what's come on.
Hi everybody, welcome to Evening TV. I'm Evening Ransom. I want to talk to you a little bit about writing through trauma today, about what we can do to heal our trauma through writing. Sigmund Freud, back in the day, he seemed to think that if you wrote about things that you would have a sense of catharsis and that would really heal you and make you feel better. And so James Pennebaker came along later, and he went ahead and tested this. A group write just about anything they wanted every day, and he had another group come in and write about the worst things that had ever happened to them. And it did turn out to be true that the ones that wrote about what had happened to them, it really did seem to be getting a whole lot better. And so he extracted, went through and extracted what the words were and what was it that was helping. Words that were saying that they were identifying, like, I can see now, they're reflecting back on, or I now know what they had determined based on writing about that, what they had been able to take what seemed like a chaotic, overwhelming problem situation and make it into something that now you could see it. You could see the forest of the trees, you could see the steps that it had taken, that there was a progression to it, and you could also see how you could avoid doing it again in the future. So it gave it meaning, and what it does is this unlocks the panicky brain. It's telling you that it needs to keep you safe. And so if you are thinking about things that happen, and you're kind of ruminating on things, going back to things that happened more than a year and a half ago, that means you're really stuck in it, and your brain is trying to keep you safe, and it's not satisfied that you've identified the problem, that you know what happened, and that you know how to avoid having it happen again. And so writing can definitely help you with that. And so writing through trauma, and however you want to do it, I mean, journaling is fun, writing a memoir about it, writing poetry about it, writing songs about it, really writing anything about it. But suggested is that needs to happen with it is that you need to be able to look at it, extract the wisdom from it, assign it some meaning, basically see that you can give it some sort of sequence, you can make sense of what was involved, what steps did it take, so that you can see that it wasn't just random out of the blue, that there was a progression to it. And if you're looking at your narcissistic abuse, this is an easy one because there is a progression to it. It doesn't just happen out of the blue. Most of us can see that we had it happen as children, so we were groomed that way. We see where our messages about love came from, our messages about what we deserved, how we deserved to be treated. We see all of where that came from. We see where our first signs of our low self-esteem started showing up, and basically we see the mistakes that we made, the times that when we expected way too little and we gave way too much, and we set our standards way too low, and we tolerated abuse, and it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and this is how, so we will have an answer to how did we end up here, because I know for myself that there was a moment when I go, how in the world did I end up here? And I really couldn't tell you. I thought I'd done everything right, and here my life was in shambles. But writing about basically how did I get there, and that it wasn't just random, and it didn't just happen out of the blue. I was very much an active participant in creating that terrible outcome. It was, I'm not blaming myself, but I certainly, if I hadn't had some of the issues that I had, and if I hadn't gone along with it in certain ways that I had, and if I hadn't actually actively pursued marriage to this, nothing happened in my life with him when it was at the pinnacle of this life we built. Any of that had happened by accident. It all had my fingerprints all over it. I was so vulnerable to it. I had set myself up in such a way to be so vulnerable to it in a way that I don't think most people would have, I was just set up in the worst way for it to be very, very detrimental. And so I know now, I've identified now where I went wrong there and how to avoid doing it again. Think about what kind of writing you want to do, how you want to work this out. Basically, if you want, like, essays might be a good place to start. Like, I mean, they can be journal entries or whatever, but if you want to take, like, maybe each day or whatever, take a topic, and like basically an essay is a problem that through the essay you try and solve. So you could tell the stories of your life in that way, you know, sort of like I've been doing in some of my videos where I tell, basically pluck one story out of my life and tell that story, and you can see, you know, there's a problem, it escalates, and how it comes to be resolved. And doing that is a healing thing, you know, doing that to watch and see the steps of how it goes. And it can even get you through, you know, Viktor Frankl, who, you know, wrote about his time in Auschwitz. You know, it can get you through some real, you know, that's a trauma that he basically healed through writing, you know, through basically making sense of the story, extracting something about who he made some observations about who copes and who doesn't, and, you know, how that world within your mind, that world within yourself, is what you really have control over. The way you're going to respond is the only thing you have control over, and that he saw that the people that got that did much better than the ones that didn't. Recreating his book, his manuscript in his mind kept him going. You know, basically is how he survived. You can certainly survive your trauma, and writing can be a big tool in your toolbox to use for doing that. One way or the other, what you want to do is you want to make an account of the problem so you understand how it happened and extract the wisdom from it, and basically be able to say, I can see now that, or I know, looking back on it, and understand what it is you know that you didn't know then, so that you know how to keep yourself safe from it. And that really will unlock it and help it so that the energy of that will lift, and you will no longer have to keep going back to it over and over again. If you are banging your head against the wall of an old problem, that's something you definitely haven't worked through yet. That's what it's telling you. To start out, if you'd like, why don't you start thinking about your writing practice? You know, start thinking about how do you want to go about that, you know? Do you have answer these questions, like, do you have a best time of day to write, or do you have a good place you can write? Can you set up a little sacred space for yourself to write? And this doesn't have to be a publishable thing, but it can be. I was even thinking that maybe what we could do is we could put together, you know, maybe we could put together a poetry anthology or an anthology of essays from trauma survivors. You know, just a thought. In the comments, let me know, like, if you'd be interested in writing an anthology or something like that. If you have a writing practice, and, you know, basically if you want to get started on doing that, healing your trauma through it, or if you're already doing that, if it seems to be working. But here's some writing prompts you can start. Life is a bridge between blank and blank. Thank you very much for being here, you guys. Talk with you later. Bye-bye.